Hi mathematicians, this is Mr. Almeida. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to convert measurement units. That is, we are going to be given a certain number of a measurement unit, and we're going to be asked to write that as a different number of a different unit. So we're going to have to use our knowledge of what rates are and their divisions, and we're going to have to use the multiplicative relationships that are between those two numbers or those quantities. So to start, we say that to convert measurement units, to go from inches to miles or to go from feet to centimeters, we're going to have to use conversions using this reference sheet that is right here. This reference sheet has the conversions that we can use in order to go from one measurement unit to another measurement unit. So this one example right here is called a conversion. It tells us how we can relate fluid ounces with cups. That is, for every 1 cup, there are 8 fluid ounces. So if I have 2 cups, I'm going to have 2 copies of 8 fluid ounces, which is 16 fluid ounces. Okay? So that just allows us to know what the relationship is. So we're going to use this a lot. And we want to find what the multiplicative relationship is between the numbers in the quantities. All right? So the first step that I'm going to go through is I'm going to use strategy 2 first to talk about this, because this is going to be the faster way to figure it out. All right, the first step is we want to figure out if we are given, say, 64 fluid ounces, we want to find a path that can get us from fluid ounces to the unit that we want. In this case, the unit that we want is pints. So I'm going to look at my reference sheet, and I'm going to start at fluid ounces, and I want to find a path to get to pints, okay? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down, I'm starting at fluid ounces, and I want to get to pints in the end. All right, so looking here, it says fluid ounces to cups. Now that gets me to cups, so I'm going to write fluid ounces to cups. Cups right there, okay? Fluid ounces to cups. Then I have to find another cup conversion. So another cup conversion is right here. I see cups. So I'm going to go from cups to pints. From cups to pints. And that's what I want. I want to end up at pints, so I know the path that I'm going to go from. I'm going to go from fluid ounces to cups, and then from cups to pints. Okay? So now that I know the path I'm going to follow, now I go back to the conversion chart, and instead of looking at just the units, I'm going to look at the numbers that go with those units. So the next step is to determine what multiplication you do to the numbers to get from one number to the next number. Okay? So again, in the first conversion, I'm going from fluid ounces to cups. So I'm going to go from fluid ounces to cups. Now I'm going to look at the number 8. What do I have to do to the number 8 to get to the number 1? Again, using multiplication. So I notice that from 8 to 1, it's getting smaller. So I'm going to have to multiply by a fraction that is smaller than 1. Because if I multiply by a number greater than 1, 8 is going to result in a larger number. I don't want that. I want it to be a smaller number. So I'm going to multiply it by a fraction that is less than 1 that involves both the numbers 8 and 1 in the fraction. Well, I have two choices. I could either write 1/8 or I could write 8 wholes. Well, which one of these fractions is less than 1? It's this one right here. Therefore, I'm going to write that right here. So I'm going to multiply the number of fluid ounces by 1/8 in order to get from 8 to the number 1, okay? So from fluid ounces to cups, I'm going to multiply the number by 1/8. Now I'm going from cups to pints. So from cups to pints, now I look at the number that's associated with it. It's 2. I'm going from the number 2 to the number 1. Is the number getting bigger or smaller? It's getting smaller. Therefore, the fraction I multiply has to be smaller than 1 to equal this number here because it's a smaller number. So what's the only fraction I can make? I can make two fractions actually. I can make 1/2 or I can make 2 wholes. Well, which results in a number multiplying another number that's going to give me a number that is smaller than what I start with. Because I'm starting at 2 and I'm going to 1, that's smaller. Therefore, I'm going to pick the smaller fraction. The fraction that's going to get me to a number smaller than what I start with, which is 1/2. So therefore, I'm going to multiply by 1/2. And that's why this is now written right here, okay? All right, so now that I've done that, I've gotten to the unit that I want. Perfect. I only have to use 2 conversions to get from fluid ounces to pints, to the number of pints. So then I deal with just my numbers now. So now I compute all of my numbers to get the number of the unit that I want. So I'm going to take 64. I'm going to multiply that by 1/8. Then I'm going to multiply that by 1/2. So visually, it looks like this. 64 times 1/8 times 1/2. But because I am multiplying fractions, I can then use the product formula, which is right here. And what that says is I'm going to multiply all of the numerators, so 64 times 1 times 1, that's 64 times 1 times 1, all over the product of the denominators, so 8 times 2, 8 times 2, okay? So then I could just straight multiply this out, 64 times 1 times 1, and get a numerator, and then put that all over 8 times 2 and get a denominator. However, I'm going to try to save myself some time by doing some simplifying before I multiply, because sometimes I'm going to end up with really big numbers if I don't do this. And I'm going to have to divide by really big numbers if I don't do this as well. All right, so we look here. We ask ourselves, is there a number that can divide 64 and 8 besides 1? Well, the answer is yes. It's 8. So you try to pick the biggest number you can. That's the greatest common factor of both the numbers. So we have 64 divided by 8 is 8, and 8 divided by 8 is 1, okay? Now we have 8 times 1 times 1 all over 1 times 2. So now we ask, is there a number that can divide 8 and 2? I'm going to skip over my 1 because I know I'm done with that. Yes, there is a number that can divide 8 and 2. It is 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now, once I have 1 in either the numerator or denominator, I know I am completely done simplifying. So therefore, I'm just going to multiply now. So 4 times 1 is 4, all over 1 times 1, which is 1. Now 4 divided by 1 is 4, because 4 times 1 equals 4. Okay, so I have my number. I have my number of pints. It's 4. So I put 4 with pints, and that's how many pints there are when we have 64 fluid ounces. So that's how you convert measurement units. You first determine the path that you want to get to the unit that you want. Then you do a multiplicative analysis, or you look at what you have to multiply, the numbers that are associated with those units, and you figure that out right here. And then you straight up compute your numbers. So you do the work that's necessary. So 64 times 1/8 times 1/2 in this case. All right. Some people like to use ratio tables, so I'll show you how to do it with a ratio table. But this involves a little bit more thinking. However, it might be helpful to organize it this way. So you have choices whenever you are solving problems, so I want to give you another choice. All right, you're going to use a ratio table, and you know ratio tables are collections of equivalent ratios. And we're going to determine the multiplicative relationships between either the columns from fluid ounces to cups, or between the rows. So you can go between the rows if you'd like. All right. This is, let me just show you what was not given to us. All right, so that was not given to us. All right, so here we go. We are given 64 fluid ounces, and we want to find a certain number of pints. So we put fluid ounces down and put what number goes with fluid ounces, okay? Then we determine the path that we want to go is fluid ounces to cups. So my next column is going to go from fluid ounces to cups. So I'm going to put a label here for cups. Then I actually put the numbers that are associated with that conversion right into the table. So there are 8 fluid ounces that are equal to 1 cup. 1 cup. So I put that in the row right there. I'm just filling in the information, okay? Then I'm going from cups now to pints. So I'm going to put another label here for pints, from cups to pints. Then I'm going to create a new row and put the information that I know for that. So there are 2 cups. So 2 cups for every, or for each, 1 pint. So I put that information into the table. Then I am done because I've gotten to the unit that I want. I put my question mark right there, and that's what I want to get, pints, okay? So now it's all about determining the multiplicative relationship. So I ask myself, well, this is not technically there, okay? All right, so the 8 is technically not there because that's filled in afterwards. But I'm going to ask myself, what do I have to do to the number 8 to get to the number 1? Well, multiplicatively, or using multiplication, I know the number is getting smaller, so I'm going to multiply by a fraction smaller than 1 using 8 and 1. The only fraction that I can make using 8 and 1 in the fraction is 1/8. That's smaller than 1. So I'm going to multiply by 1/8. To multiply by 1/8 means to divide by 8 and then to multiply that answer by 1. Well, if you multiply the answer by 1, you're not changing the answer at all. So you're going to get the same number. So all I have to write here is divide by 8. Okay, but I could write times 1/8 here. That's fine. All right, so I know to get from fluid ounces to cups, I'm going to divide by 8 or multiply by 1/8. If you notice, that's the same thing I did right here, multiply by 1/8. Then, to get from cups to pints, I'm going to use what I know, okay? Both cups and pints are given to me. So I notice that I'm getting the numbers getting smaller from 2 to 1. So I'm going to multiply by a fraction that's less than 1 using both these numbers. So I have 1/2. So that's less than 1. So I'm going to multiply by 1/2. Well, to multiply by 1/2 means to divide the number by 2 and then multiply it by 1. Again, if you multiply it by 1, you're not changing the actual number. You're going to get the same number. So we can simply write divide by 2 if you'd like, okay? But if you notice, that's the same as multiplying by 1/2. So as you can see, everything that we're doing here is in the ratio table. It's just in a different format for people who like to put all the information down into one place instead of keeping it possibly in their heads in this case. So either one of these strategies will work for you, and then you actually do the computations to get from to the missing value that you want. So in this case, we'd start with 64. We'd do the computations like it says down here in step 3. 64 divided by 8 is 8, and then 8 divided by 2, or times 1/2, is 4. And we get the same answer. So these are 2 strategies that can help you. Both involve the same kind of thinking. However, one allows you to do some of the work in your head, and that's strategy 2. And the other strategy allows you to take all the information and just put it down in one place, so then you can see what's going on with the numbers afterwards. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope that you have great success with converting measurement units, and have a great day, mathematicians.